Let's start today's session. Is one willing to drop all one's pleasures immediately? This is not a question for one to imagine, but rather to act in the real action to answer this question. Is one willing to drop all the pleasure instantly? Why is the mind entangled in pleasure? That entangling state of the mind is perhaps the factor of various corruption. It is necessary to make it clear that we don't condemn pleasure, but rather can one act to put aside all the pleasure. And when one's doing that, one can observe, find out what the mind is going through. The mind can find out why is it so occupied with various things. The fact is that one has nothing. But why does pleasure become something that the mind cling to and seek in various ways? Why is the mind running away from the fact that it has nothing? Running away from the fact there must be struggle. Because the mind wants to preserve some illusion, wanting to make it permanent. So there's a constant struggle for the mind to deny the fact. The mind is in a state of compulsion, endless compulsion. Therefore, it becomes restless, seeking its own fulfillment, satisfaction, gratification. But in the end, there's nothing. And can one see the fact as it is? See the fact without being sentimental, emotional, or judgmental. Just see the fact and stay with it. Then pleasure and all that stay in the right place. So that's why it is something very serious for one to study, investigate. This constant indulgence with pleasure. One is living in a dreamy, illusory state. And the whole society is encouraging and cultivating various forms of pleasure. If pleasure has no issues, we wouldn't have discussed here. When the mind is indulged in pleasure, there's tremendous fear. One can perceive it. The mind is trapped in something that is illusory, though there's nothing. And that something brings a sense of possessiveness. Wanting to keep it. making it permanent, but also has a fear of losing it. And the fear has become a tremendous thing in the world, where pleasure is encouraged and cultivated in every way through the commercialism, consumerism. Seeking fulfillment, satisfaction, any form of instant pleasure makes the mind impatient. That constant fulfillment gives the mind a false sense of security. And the mind becomes conditioned to that. The sense of fear of losing something, not achieving, not arriving, has permeated the whole living. Fear crippled the mind. In fear, the mind, the whole neuron system, cannot function properly. That's something obvious, isn't it? Rather than dealing with fear, one runs away from fear by seeking more pleasure, fulfillment, satisfaction, and all that. But the fear is always there. Fear and pleasure go hand in hand. Fear and pleasure are two sides of the same coin. The more one is into fear, know that the more one is into pleasure, the more one is into fear. So the mind thinks that it can escape from the fear by running into pleasure, only in actuality bringing more fear. Please see this very deceptive thinking, which is also very convenient. Right? Running away from something is very convenient. But here, we are all dealing with the fact. The fact is not a product of thoughts. The fact is beyond any specific way of thinking. Running away from something is one way of thinking, but fact is not that. So one must perceive instantly the truth of this fact. Pleasure and fear are two coins, two sides of the same coin. Pleasure is very enticing and attractive, isn't it? The instant fulfillment, satisfaction is such a force that one cannot resist. But one must see the consequence of it. The danger of it. When the mind is intoxicated with the fulfillment, it cannot perceive the danger. Because the danger demands a silent mind, a quiet mind to see. But when the mind is pursuing pleasure, the mind is not quiet. The mind is very hot. That's why, can the mind be quiet to see the danger? When the mind sees the danger, it has different actions, brand new actions. Right? It's something very natural, isn't it? When one perceives danger, there's instant action. And what prevents the mind from seeing the danger? The danger means utterly confusion, conflict, loneliness, meaninglessness, various problems, issues. A life crippled by fear. All in all, suffering. When the mind is so engaged with pleasure, it keeps deceiving itself and cannot see the danger. When the mind is pursuing pleasure, as we said, the mind has tremendous fear. And the fear continues enhancing the self-centeredness. When there's a fear, there is a self-concern. When there's self-concern, the mind cannot function properly. When the mind has tremendous self-concern, the mind is paralyzed. That's something very obvious, isn't it? When there's self-concern, there's worry, there's anxiety, various reactions, emotions. And the person becomes low-spirited. And when the mind can function properly, there's no self-concern. Therefore, there's no fear. But when the mind is pursuing pleasure, craving the experience of pleasure, there's also self-concern. It is the me, the ego, that is asking for pleasure and experiencing the pleasure. Is that so? Are we meeting each other? Does what the speaker says make something sense to you, or is the speaker merely talking to himself? So the protagonist of the pleasure and fear is the ego itself. The ego, the me, is the source of all human issues. Which are not only manifested in human beings in these psychological issues, but also the great destruction on earth. So behind this constant struggle of fear and pleasure is the activities of the ego, the me. The sense of my things, my pleasure, my fulfillment, my gratification, my fear, and all that. All the things are the abstractions made by thoughts, concepts, theories, ideas. What place do those things have in one's daily living? Or the ego the self, has no place at all. But why has the me, the self, become so dominant? The whole society is based on the ego. And that concept has become so entrenched. Perhaps that is also the reason that why the consumerism and the commercialism become so preposterous. The whole commercial world is the activities of the me, the self. And why does one accept that? Why does one accept the ego as something normal? As we said earlier today, the pleasure is so attractive. The instant fulfillment. Gratification. And the whole society, which becomes so commercial, keeps cultivating it. So that become the culture. Culture is quoted. And in that environment, one is imitating and conforming. And in that imitation and conformity, the mind feels this is normal. So can the mind, can the brain be aware of this conditioning? Here, we are dealing with a fact which is beyond any conditioning. A conditioned mind cannot see the fact. Can the mind be free from all conditionings? A conditioned mind does not know what it means to be down to earth. When the mind is really down to earth, there's no conditioning, because the mind is aware of its own conditionings. when the mind is conditioned, as most people are, thoughts are functioning there in a very deceptive way, distorting the perception. And why do human beings allow this situation to happen? That is, thoughts become so rampant. Thoughts are everywhere. Is that because there's constant worship for thoughts? Thoughts condition the mind, and the mind worships thoughts. Please see the loop. The pattern. It is one process. The mind worships thoughts, and thoughts condition the mind. And the thoughts bring about pleasure. Again, we do not condemn anything, but rather, one observe this fact. Pleasure is the product of thoughts. Seeking pleasure, worshipping thoughts are the same thing. And thoughts condition the mind. Therefore, oscillating the mind found a fact. Lost in thoughts, the mind is confused in contradiction, conflict, in these issues manifested in the suffering of all human beings. Can one observe all those for oneself without being influenced by anybody, including the speaker? Can one perceive all the mischiefs of thoughts in the form of pleasure and fear in one's living? thoughts as knowledge have their places in the living. But psychologically, do they have a place? If they do, as most people are living that way, there is this so-called psychological world. The me is the center. And our living is conditioned to that. But that world is a make-believe world created by thoughts in the form of pleasure and fear. It becomes something, though the fact is that it is nothing. And believing that it is something, the mind is lost and trapped. Busy dealing with various issues that never end. So can one perceive the fact that there's nothing? Please don't translate the statement made by the speaker into an idea. Then you are lost again. But can you listen and find out for yourself? When the mind listens to the statement, can the mind perceive the truth of it? Can one feel the fact that it is so? Otherwise, the so-called fact is merely an idea. An idea is never factual. So can one feel it in one's heart and blood that the fact is fact? And overdose demands a mind that is quiet and silent. Only a silent mind can see nothing as nothing. Otherwise, the mind, which is conditioned by thoughts, always see nothing as something. And is that the root of all issues? Can the mind be free from all conditionings so it can see nothing as nothing? When the mind sees nothing as nothing, all is finished. So can the mind end this continuity? There's beauty in the ending something. A seeking mind is trapped in the continuity for fulfillment, satisfaction. Bringing the illusory sense of something which is nothing. Can the mind break through all that? The facade of various illusions. There is something that is nothing. Can the mind be free of all the burdens? Please don't imagine it. Please act to find out for yourself. Can the mind break up with the continuity brought about by the accumulative thoughts? Just be quiet. When there's nothing, and it is a fact, when the mind consider that fact, There's only this moment. The past and the future are all thought processes. No one can have an appointment tomorrow, but psychologically, there's no past, there's no future, there's only now. Seeing the fact and perceiving the fact as it is demands one's diligence. And a full commitment to truth. Truth is never a product of thoughts. Truth is the perception of the fact as fact. All right, I think that's enough for today's session. And this session will be remake and published on Inside Timer later. If you want, please donate to support this purity, which is very vulnerable. In a society that worship the me, the ego. And hopefully we can all live upon truth and compound the beauty of it. Take care, everybody. See you in the future sessions.